Hello, my name is HQ of Itsmyracex. Welcome to my channel. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button, share the stream, and click the notification button for new content. Thank you.
I'm overheated.
Hello. When we reach the moment of where we are having a conversation, a serious conversation about our Secretary of Defense. We are having a heated discussion about the Secretary of our Defense. This man was born to do things, I guess. I'm assuming he was born to do important things. He went to Princeton, studied politics, conservative. He earned a master's in public policy from Harvard Kennedy School. He was an infantry officer in the United States National Guard, deployed to Guantanamo Bay, Iraq, Afghanistan. He kept in touch with a lot of things related to veterans and veterans affairs, right? But his most recent, I guess, most distinguished gig was him being a television personality and political commentator before he became our Secretary of Defense. Donald Trump, who has a pool of candidates at the Fox and Friends News, picked him out of obscurity and into the limelight to be our Secretary of War. Although he may have been in the Army, Air Force, been around those kind of things, he was woefully uneducated about the actual running of any kind of department because he did not have that particular skill under his belt, right? So when he first got into office, it was a shift in tone and priorities. He publicly spoke about that, right? Reorientating the U.S. military. So they have initiated aggressive action, anti-narcotics, the Western Hemisphere, maritime strikes on suspected drug dealers. These things have come under his watch. He advocated rolling back diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts within that military, arguing that such efforts distract from core defense priorities. I actually believe it's the white boy syndrome, where now we have white individuals acting like they're victims because people are getting ahead of them. Apparently, I don't get the DEI thing. Makes no sense to me, but it is what it is. I think it's a white man victim mentality thing, but it is what it is. So almost immediately, Hex's tenure at the Department of Defense has been marred by many controversies, raising serious questions about his competency and his judgment, right? So, we are embroiled in a controversy right now in which we're talking about whether 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 taps are legal. And here our Secretary of Defense is running from that decision that he made. So, given his background, combat experience, veteran advocacy, media work, all of that, he brings a blend of political, military, and communication skills to this job. Okay? I'm not saying that he's completely incompetent. What I am saying is there's human beings on this planet. What I am saying is there's human beings on this planet that chaos and drama and toxicity follow their lives because they have no control over their personal life. They may be competent, in the job that they have, skilled in the job that they have, not completely confident, but competent enough. Maybe skilled in the job that they have, but their toxic personal life, their scandal-ridden personal life uh, inhibits them from being competent in their work life. And Hegseth is one of those people. I mean, it just is what it is. We have there's people who are competent in their job, can do the job, can do all of these things, have a lot of skills, but they are toxic human beings because they cannot get control of their personal life. And Hegseth is one of those people. Erratic behavior. These things are the reason why he should never have been confirmed. But I blame the Republicans for putting him in place. They never said no to anything that this president said. They had no pushback for this president. This is an incompetent human being, not because he's incompetent, because he doesn't know what needs to be done in the military. That's not the point. The point is he doesn't understand that his life is chaotic. His personal life is erratic. And personal lives that are erratic oftentimes will spill over in work records, in work atmospheres. And his has started to spill, or has been spilling from day one into his work. They have different thought patterns. Their patterns are different. Their thought patterns are different. The way they approach work is different. The way they carelessly do things is different. And Pete Hegseth is one of those people. So this is why we see this behavior playing out with him. So we're going to play his greatest hits, and we're going to see where he is now from where he started. Because where he started should have given them a clue, should have given people a clue as to what they would be having when they hired him as the Secretary of Defense. He never should have been confirmed. But it is what it is. You know, hey, I blame the Republicans for this. Because they heard the rumors. They heard how erratic his behavior was. And yet and still, they hired him to be the Secretary of Defense. So, he had a speech that he went to last night. Let's start there, shall we? Let's start there. Shall we? Wait a minute, hold on. You all be patient with me. Be patient with me. Because sometimes I am goofy and wonky with this stuff.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon. You know, folks in Washington like to invoke President Reagan's name often when they criticize President Trump.
AT.
They say, or at least insinuate, that Donald Trump is nothing like Ronald Reagan. They say the current president's approach is nothing like the vision championed by Ronald Reagan at the height of the Cold War, as we grappled with the Soviets and ultimately prevailed. But those folks are wrong. They're dead wrong. Most who invoke Ronald Reagan's name today, especially self-styled Republican hawks, are not much like Ronald Reagan. The policies they've championed are nothing like his. In fact, for the better part of 30 years, they've been quite the opposite. If you look at actual policies, Donald Trump is the true and rightful heir of Ronald Reagan. It's President Trump who has inherited and restored President Reagan's powerful but focused and realistic approach to national defense. It's therefore only fitting that we gather at the Reagan Presidential Library today to talk about President Trump's America First, Peace Through Strength, Common Sense agenda and what it means at the Department of War. One need only look at the results to understand why President Trump is that rightful heir.
Why is it that every time they walk into a building and it's something to do with the government, it always has to be praise and dick riding when it comes to this president? I don't understand why the ego is so fragile that we have to approach every meeting, every committee session with a lap around the president's freaking butt. I don't understand what's going on here. Nobody needs this kind of praise.
So let's look at what Reagan and his administration actually did. Reagan rebuilt the military after Vietnam, and that is rightfully considered one of his greatest achievements. President Trump has done and is doing the same, making historic investments in defense. But President Reagan also believed sincerely in the peace part of peace through strength, as his actions showed. It was not a popular thing to do at the time, at the height of the Cold War, to talk to communists. Yet President Reagan did. During his high-profile meetings with Mikhail Gorbachev and others, Ronald Reagan saw the prudence and potential in engaging with our nation's adversaries from a position of strength, so he did. Even in the face of fierce criticism at home, including from his own party. Now, President Reagan wasn't naive. He recognized that fruitful engagements with our adversaries were only possible from a position of strength, especially military strength, which is why he focused so much on building up the American military. We still talk about the Reagan buildup, and my kids and yours will someday talk about the Trump buildup. President Reagan and his team inherited a military worn down from their generation's endless war in Vietnam, and they took the lessons of that war to heart. This is why he was so deliberate in how he used the joint force. Indeed, the most famous military doctrine of the Reagan administration, named for his Secretary of Defense, Caspar Weinberger, was specifically designed to correct for the failures that led to Vietnam. Among other key principles, the Weinberger doctrine stipulated, 1, the United States should not commit forces to combat unless the vital national interests of the United States or its allies are involved. 2, U.S. troops should only be committed wholeheartedly and with a clear intention of winning. Otherwise, troops should not be committed. 3rd, U.S. combat troops should be committed only with clearly defined political and military objectives and with the capacity to accomplish those objectives. And 4th, the commitment of U.S. troops should be considered only as a last resort. This is sound stuff. And it was reflected in how President Reagan actually used the American military, namely in a focused, decisive manner, and only when he determined that it was in our nation's vital interest to do so. In fact, throughout his time in office, President Reagan only committed U.S. ground forces twice, in Grenada and in Lebanon. Otherwise, he focused the joint force on the Cold War era threat and priority theater, Soviets in Europe. That's how President Reagan achieved peace through strength, always with a clear eye toward lasting peace. Suffice it to say, Ronald Reagan's disciplined, focused, and realistic approach was a far cry from the grandiose, nation-building, moralistic, and rudderless wars that many of his self-described acolytes led us into in the decades after Reagan left office. Wars my generation fought it. Indeed, it's only under President Trump's leadership during his first term and now that we've been able to restore America's greatness after years of suffering under the so-called bipartisan consensus, which is really just a euphemism for disastrous foreign policy. Out with utopian idealism, in with hard-nosed realism. To be specific, Ronald Reagan taught us the value of focused, powerful leadership, but his so-called disciples didn't heed that lesson. Since the end of the Cold War, a generation of self-proclaimed neo-Reaganites have touted Reagan's name, but didn't govern like him. All the bluster, none of the clarity. That's especially true in the military realm. This generation of self-proclaimed neo-Reaganites abandoned Reagan's actual wise policies in favor of unchecked neoconservatism and economic globalism. In economics, they dismantled our industrial base, shipping it overseas. At the same time, in diplomacy and defense, they swore off the clear-eyed, flexible realism of Reagan, Nixon, and Eisenhower. Instead, they set about trying to make America the policeman, the protector, the arbiter of the whole world. Democracy for all, they say, even in the Pesh River Valley. Even when people don't want it, can't do it. They turned American allies into dependents, all but encouraging these nations across Europe and around the world to free ride while we subsidize their defense with US taxpayer dollars. These self-described neo-Reaganites sought global military hegemony under the auspices of peace through strength. Instead, we got rudderless wars in the Middle East, land war in Europe, and the economic rise of China.
I wonder if he's standing there thinking, do they respect me? Are they listening to me? Because I know they were pissed off about that Joint Chiefs of Staff, all of those armed forces guys, all those army guys, military guys. I know they were pissed off. Are they actually respecting this person? Or is this person just talking to the wind? I don't know.
After presiding over such a poor performance, it's remarkable that these people still think they're qualified to speak in public.
You sound goofy, David.
Let alone moralize to the rest of us. Some of them have even been awarded for it on this very stage. But President Trump knows better. He knows what it means to restore peace through strength on an enduring basis, to put our nation's interests first and the American people first in a way that is practical, applicable, and common sense, that leaves, importantly, America better, but also leaves our allies better off. It's the vision that he ran on and led on in his first term, and he's building on it now in his second. It's a vision, not the quasi-imperialist delusions that led us to so many disasters in the recent decades, that will actually bring us back to the true legacy of Ronald Reagan. Out with utopian idealism, in with hard-nosed realism. Just look at the facts. Like President Reagan, President Trump is dedicated to both sides of the peace through strength coin, not just using that phrase as a thin veil for warmongering. In less than a year, President Trump has secured 8 major peace deals, including a historic end to the war in Gaza. And he's not finished yet. Even as we speak, under the president's leadership, we are working tirelessly to end the tragic war in Ukraine, a war that never would have started in the first place if he had been president. The world sees an entirely different America today. These historic opportunities for peace are not happening by chance. It's President Trump's vision and determination. Like President Reagan, President Trump is willing to talk to rivals, from Mikhail Gorbachev to Deng Xiaoping in the 1980s to Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping today. This is born of strength, not weakness. It is born of clarity of purpose. Folks in Washington like to criticize President Trump for doing so, but those critics forget that this is exactly what Ronald Reagan did, and America was better off for it. Like President Reagan, President Trump also knows how important it is to negotiate from a position of strength, especially military strength. And at the newly renamed Department of War, thanks to President Trump's leadership and to Congress, we received a historic boost in funding last year and believe that is only just the beginning. Make no mistake about it, President Trump is hell-bent on maintaining and accelerating the most powerful military the world has ever seen. The most powerful, the most lethal, and American-made. The arsenal of freedom. We're also restoring the warrior ethos back to basics: readiness, accountability, standards, discipline, lethality. I'm not sure if you saw, but I recently gave a speech on that topic to a few generals in Quantico.
Yeah, and that went over very well. They hated that speech. They hated that speech, and they hated you for saying that speech. This is Hegseth at his most defensive and defiant. He was riding high. He was riding high when he spoke with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was riding high when he did that. Now, we're at a different table. We're at a different timeline. We're at a timeline, and we're at the cusp of whether we're going to deal with this particular incompetence, we're going to deal with this particular arrogance and bravado that doesn't keep us safe. Are we going to continue to deal with this? And it's okay, because it's not us making that decision. We're not, as Democrats, the Democrats are not in power. But who's in power? The Republicans are in power. So it's up to the Republicans to put a stop to anything that's happening here. Here is his address to the War Department address.
Please take your seats.
This was the wildest speech that I'm sure any military personnel has ever had or heard. This is one of the wildest speeches ever given by a Secretary of Defense.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the Joint Chiefs, generals, admirals, commanders, officers, senior enlisted, NCOs, enlisted, and every member of our American military, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the War Department, because the era of the Department of Defense is over. You see, the motto of my first platoon was, "Those who long for peace must prepare for war." This is, of course, not a new idea. This crowd knows that. The origin dates to the 4th century Rome and has been repeated ever since, including by our first commander-in-chief, George Washington, the first leader of the War Department. It captures a simple yet profound truth. To ensure peace, we must prepare for war. From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, no one here wants war, but it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace, and they rightfully expect us to deliver it. Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place.
I wonder if when they make these speeches that they deliberately make them to be titillating, or they deliberately make them to be adversarial or controversial. Do they just deliberately do that?
The president talks about it all the time. It's called peace through strength. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. It ignores human nature and it ignores human history. Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subservient to something or someone. It's a truth as old as time. And since waging war is so costly in blood and treasure, we owe our republic a military that will win any war we choose, or any war that is thrust upon us. Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Another way to put it is, Peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. And we are restoring both. As President Trump has said, and he's right, we have the strongest, most powerful, most lethal, and most prepared military on the planet. That is true, full stop. Nobody can touch us. It's not even close. This is true largely because of the historic investments that he made in his first term, and we will continue in this term. But it's also true because of the leaders in this room and the incredible troops that you all lead. But the world, and as the chairman mentioned, our enemies get a vote. You feel it, I feel it. This is a moment of urgency, mounting urgency. Enemies gather, threats grow. There is no time for games. We must be prepared. If we're going to prevent and avoid war, we must prepare now. We are the strength part of peace through strength. And either we're ready to win or we are not. You see, this urgent moment, of course, requires more troops, more munitions, more drones, more Patriots, more submarines, more B-21 bombers. It requires more innovation, more AI in everything and ahead of the curve, more cyber effects, more counter UAS, more space, more speed. America is the strongest, but we need to get stronger and quickly. The time is now, and the cause is urgent. The moment requires restoring and refocusing our defense industrial base, our shipbuilding industry, and onshoring all critical components. It requires, as President Trump has done, getting our allies and partners to step up and share the burden. America cannot do everything. The free world requires allies with real hard power, real military leadership, and real military capabilities. The War Department is tackling and prioritizing all of these things. And I'll be giving a speech next month that'll showcase the speed, innovation, and generational acquisition reforms we are undertaking urgently. Likewise, the nature of the threats we face in our hemisphere and in deterring China is another speech for another day, coming soon. This speech today, as I drink my coffee, this speech today is about people. And it's about culture. The topic today is about the nature of ourselves. Because no plan, no program, no reform, no formation will ultimately succeed unless we have the right people and the right culture at the War Department.
Yes. Yet we have this person who came from TV and who's not competent, not 100% confident, competent either. Another person that comes in who makes demands, who makes changes to a military that has been running on like a well-oiled machine without the changes that you have wrought or you have put into place. A disruption that they did not need in this military. I don't think they respected him. Let's keep going for a little bit.
If I've learned one core lesson in my 8 months in this job, it's that personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. The best way to take care of troops is to give them good leaders committed to the warfighting culture of the department. Not perfect leaders, good leaders. Competent, qualified, professional, agile, aggressive, innovative, risk-taking, apolitical, faithful to their oath and to the Constitution. Eugene Sledge, in his World War II memoir, wrote, quote, "War is brutish, inglorious, and a terrible waste. Combat leaves an indelible mark on those who are forced to endure it. The only redeeming factors are my comrades' incredible bravery and their devotion to each other."
You know how I know a person that's good in the military, who doesn't need their ego stroked, who doesn't need any kind of accolades for what they do? You know when somebody doesn't know what they do and they're not incompetent, but they're insecure with coming into the military and being in control of other people. They have to control every little thing. When you're insecure, you come in and want to try and change every little thing. You want people to wear the uniform. You want them to have the badges. You want them to have everything straight, lined up, beard, everything. This is what he came in and he did. And then the people could tell that he was fresh and new. And he didn't know what he was doing. Most of them don't. Most of them know that he doesn't know what he's doing. And that's a bad record to start out with. People being unsure of what you're going to do as the leader. This is where we're at. Let me fast forward a little bit. Let's fast forward a little bit. Because we know what he said, right? We know what he said to the people. We know what he said. Let's see the last couple minutes.
To nation building and nebulous end states. This clear-eyed view, all the way in the White House, combined with President Trump's military buildup, postures us for future victories if, and we will, and when we embrace the War Department. And we must. We are preparing every day. We have to be prepared for war, not for defense. We're training warriors, not defenders. We fight wars to win, not to defend. Defense is something you do all the time. It's inherently reactionary and can lead to overuse, overreach, and mission creep. War is something you do sparingly, on our own terms, and with clear aims. We fight to win. We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters. That's all I ever wanted as a platoon leader. And it's all my E6 squad leaders ever wanted, back to that E6 rule. We let our leaders fight their formations, and then we have their back. It's very simple, yet incredibly powerful. A few months ago, I was at the White House when President Trump announced his Liberation Day for America's trade policy. It was a landmark day. Well, today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of...
That Liberation Day started us down this path where we're less safe, less stable, and we have to deal with incompetence all around. Liberation Day delivered us to fascism. It didn't deliver us to any kind of freedom. We're stuck in this loop. We're watching the end of this session, how these people respond to him.
America's warriors, in name, in deed, and in authorities. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. We are not an army of one. We are a joint force of millions of selfless Americans. We are warriors. We are purpose-built, not for fair weather, blue skies, or calm seas. We were built to load up in the back of helicopters, 5 tons, or Zodiacs in the dead of night, in fair weather or foul, to go to dangerous places, to find those who would do our nation harm, and deliver justice on behalf of the American people in close and brutal combat if necessary. You are different. We fight not because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us. You see, the Ivy League faculty lounges will never understand us, and that's okay, because they could never do what you do. The media will mischaracterize us, and that's okay, because deep down they know the reason they can do what they do is you. In this profession, you feel comfortable inside the violence so that our citizens can live peacefully. Lethality is our calling card, and victory our only acceptable end state.
This is when we have a testimony as to how people do speeches or how speeches come across, right? His speech hit the hit the minds and bodies and consciousness of this Joint Chiefs of Staffs like a brick. Nobody respected this person. The only way this person is going to be future president is if everybody's brain shuts down and only the morons vote. And only a moron would want to vote for another moron. Makes no sense. He's almost done. So he's almost done. So let's see what his reception is.
Had the privilege of being your secretary. And I will continue to pray this prayer for each of you as you command and lead our nation's finest. Go forth and do good things, hard things. President Trump has your back, and so do I. And you'll hear from him shortly. Move out and draw fire. Because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Godspeed. You notice didn't nobody clap, right? Nobody clapped to this. Nobody wanted this. Nobody wanted anything to do with the incompetence of this person. As I stated before, people can be competent in their job, but their personal life is chaotic. Nobody clapped when he walked across the stage. Because nobody believed him or respected him. As I said, we reap what we sow when it comes to this person. We reaped what we sowed with this person. Now, this person goes to the Senate. Why this person goes to the Senate and decides that he's not going to cooperate with the people in the Senate, I don't understand. This is your job to testify. This is your job to testify and say X, Y, and Z. Why is it that we have an issue with this person when it comes to him and his testimony? Where's the exchange?
And our taxpayers, together with you, may God grant us the wisdom to see what is right and the courage to do it. Thank you.
I thank the Secretary. General Kane, you're recognized for 5 minutes to summarize your opening statement.
Chair Rogers, thank you, sir. Ranking Member Smith, other members of the committee, I'm honored to join the Secretary here today and Ms. Bryn McDonald to appear before you to testify on the President's FY26 budget. Today's hearing reflects our shared commitment to maximize efficiency, accountability, and lethality and survivability through the investments that you make in us. Ensuring every expenditure increases the survivability of the joint force and providing our warfighters the advanced capabilities, cutting-edge technologies required to dominate our adversaries at scale. I've got deep gratitude for everyone in this room and your commitment to helping us deliver the capability and capacity of our joint force and the 2.8 million service members, civilians, and their families to help us deliver the peace through strength that the Secretary talked about is very important, and I'm very thankful. It's my response.
He's not the person that I want to speak to. This is an interesting exchange. I'm just looking at the exchanges that this gentleman has made that shows there's an issue with this person. Why we didn't see it when we saw it before, when we seen it in his confirmation hearing. Why?
When yields back, Chair now recognizes a gentlelady from California, Ms. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of our witnesses for being here. Secretary Hegseth, as you probably know, today is National Women's Veterans Day, and in your confirmation hearing and in subsequent conversations, you've said...
And you know that he forced a general, a female, out of the military. He forced a female out of the military, which is what he's good at, which is what he does. He doesn't want women or black people in the military. He's forced those people to quit or resign. This is how the incompetence starts. Here's the thing. You cannot have a society where men, white men, are the only ones that have control over what goes on. You have to have women, you have to have men, you have to have other ethnic minorities in order for it to run smoothly. This is the problem that I have with Hegseth. He's an arrogant prick who's incompetent, and somebody gave him a job. Every person that Donald Trump hired was a DEI hire. Trump hired Hegseth, DEI. Patel, DEI. Bondi, DEI. Every person that he has put in place has been fraught, Christy Nome, fraught with personal issues, personal problems, things that interfere with their regular working life. All of them have issues and that's the difference. That right there is the difference between a professional and this cabinet that he put together. I hate to say cabinet, but it is what it is. This is the difference.
And I'm quoting you now, women in our military have and continue to make amazing contributions across all aspects of our battlefield, and that women were some of the best soldiers you served with. Do you still stand by those statements?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. As you probably know, I represent San Diego, the biggest military community in the country. So I meet with countless service members all the time. And with your focus on emphasis and on merit and standards, I wanted to tell you about 3 incredible women in our military. So the first woman is a major responsible for advanced collective warfighting training. Her officer evaluation report rates her as most qualified. And some of the comments included are, and I'm quoting now, she lives the Army values and demonstrates the warrior ethos daily. She rates within the top 5% of officers I've encountered in 18 years of military service. The second woman is an aviator with a record of over 50 combat missions, including deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. 2 quotes from her most recent fitness report in April include, quoting again, "People excel under her leadership, and she has my strongest possible recommendation for promotion." The third woman is an instructor for an Army ROTC battalion. According to her evaluation report, her overall performance was rated at far exceeds standards, and the comments include, "She is undoubtedly within the top 5% of non-commissioned officers I've worked with in my 22 years of service." Given their stellar qualifications and accomplishments and their record of surpassing standards, I assume that you agree that the Pentagon and the services should do everything they can to retain women like these, correct?
I would commend the major, the aviator, and the instructor for their service.
Great. I'm glad you agree, because I also believe we should be recruiting and retaining the very best and brightest in our country to serve in the military. And yet, you are actually kicking out these 3 highly qualified service members solely because of their identity. These are trans women. And you are using the very same arguments that have been used against desegregating the military or allowing women to serve or allowing gay people to serve. And in all those cases, those arguments were wrong. So I think it's clear that this is actually not about standards or, and I'm quoting you again, an equal, unwavering, gender-neutral, merit-based system, because if it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military, and it's at the detriment of our military readiness and national security.
And this is the problem that we have with people like Hegseth, Donald Trump, and any other person that feels as though they should inject cultural dynamics into these military positions. I'm not saying it's okay for trans people to be in the military. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is we want competent people to be in the military. And as she stated, Hegseth is trying to push out people who have rank that do not fit the white male stereotype. Anybody who doesn't fit that stereotype or that look, he wants to push out. Black, trans, gay, Mexican, you name it. He's trying to push them out of their position, out of power, and put at the head, regardless of anything. It could be any white male, it doesn't matter. Incompetent or competent, doesn't matter. This is why he's making us unsafe.
Now, General Kane, I'd like to turn to you.
So to be clear, these are men who think they're women.
These are women. I'm happy to educate you on
But these are men.
on trans
and so
issues at another
what we've
time.
identified is that there's mental health issues
I'd
with
like
that
to-
belief system
I'd like to turn to
that
General
are
Kane
detrimental
now.
to readiness. And that's the determination that we've made and that we stand behind. Gender dysphoria.
And so you don't
creates complications.
trust your commanding officers to be able to evaluate the people under them to decide if that were true, wouldn't that show up in their fit reps? And yet these fit reps are from the last 3 months, and all of their commanding officers say that they exceed standards. I'm turning to General Kane now. General Kane, I'd like to touch on something you said yesterday before the Senate Appropriations Committee. When asked whether the United States is under a foreign invasion, you said, at this point in time, I don't see any foreign state-sponsored folks invading. Despite that testimony, 2,000 National Guard troops have been federalized and deployed to Los Angeles, and 700 Marines from my community of Southern California are now on the ground there as well. And on Tuesday, President Trump, flanked by hundreds of uniformed troops, said they are there, said this is the reason they are there. They are there, I'm quoting now. Generations of Army heroes did not shed their blood on distant shores only to watch our country be destroyed by an invasion. General, have you personally informed the president that according to your own assessment, there is no invasion?
Ma'am, first, the definition of an invasion, whether or not that's a policy, that's really a policy decision. And, from a military only perspective, I, stand by what I said yesterday. But, my advice to the president in any particular matter from a security standpoint, or for the secretary for that matter, I keep that between them.
I understand that, but the highest ranking military advisor in the country
Have this contention going on with Kash Patel from the beginning. A messy exchange for Kash Patel. Every time he gets in front of his Senate Joint Commission, he gets in front of a commissioner, or he gets in front of a committee, it's always contention. Why? We don't know.
So when it comes back to acquisition reform, and the chairman's point, it's our committee certainly.
Hearing Mr. Hegseth was, I want to give you the opportunity to correct the record and make clear that you will abide by, that you will obey a ruling of the United States Supreme Court.
I don't believe we have any cases pending before the Supreme Court right now.
I want to ask you, if will you abide by a ruling, by a decision of the United States Supreme Court if it is issued and you're asked to do so?
What I've said, and I'll repeat, is that district courts should not set the policy of foreign policy of the United States of America.
Mr. Hegseth, this is a fundamental
Hearing. U.S. Capitol Police are on hand to assist with that task, and I thank them for their service. I want to welcome our witnesses and thank them for their service to our great nation. We're here today to hear from the Department of Defense about its FY26 budget request. Unfortunately, we still have not received the FY26 budget. This historic delay by the Office of Management and Budget in releasing this information is absolutely unacceptable. It's impacting our ability to move forward with the NDAA, the next big step in enacting the president's Peace Through Strength agenda. That's a problem because threats to our nation have never been more urgent or complex. Adversaries like China, Russia, North Korea, Iran continue to expand their military power. They're no longer acting alone. These countries are strategically building alliances and supporting each other with drones, munitions, satellite technology, and energy supplies. And we're seeing that acutely in Ukraine. Make no mistake, a Russian victory in Ukraine would be a victory for China, North Korea, and Iran.
Mr. Chairman, it shouldn't come as no surprise that I have serious concerns with both the deployment of the National Guard and the Marines to Los Angeles. I served in the Marine Corps. We are trained to be war fighters, not for crowd control. Everyone here should be alarmed that the president has sent armed forces into a city against the wishes of a governor and mayor. I am concerned this administration is purposely escalating the situation with this step and politicizing our armed forces in the process. Let's call it for what it is. It's political theater. Hegseth, are the Marines in Los Angeles ordered to protect property by any means necessary?
Sir, I would say the ICE officers and police officers being attacked is not political theater. The National Guard and Marines,
just yes or no. Just yes or no.
the National Guard and Marines have the full authority to protect federal ICE agents.
Yes or
federal
no.
agents, and
Just
federal
can
buildings.
you just say yes or no? This isn't Fox anymore. Just yes or no.
They're there to protect federal agents and federal.
Another BS answer. Under the SRUF, the use of force, are Marines allowed to fire warning shots?
No.
Now that's more like it. Isn't that easy? Well, I'm going to beat this drum because you refuse to take responsibility. Will you take responsibility for having made a mistake? Not to mention, many people would say break the law in participating in the Signal group chat that included a journalist, your wife, your brother, where classified information was shared.
Sir, every way I communicate is authorized. Every way I communicate.
Okay, if you want to say that. I have called for your resignation. I didn't think you were qualified before your confirmation, and you have done nothing to inspire confidence in your ability to lead competently. You broke the law in sharing classified information, and in doing so, endangered the lives of our service members that you are responsible for. Your inability to hold yourself accountable makes you incapable to lead. This alone makes you unfit to be the Secretary of Defense. Secretary, do you think the United States should continue supporting Ukraine in its fight against Russia, a nation that is hostile towards the United States?
Even before this incident that has have occurred, even before he gave the order, kill them all, there was issues with Hegseth's competency, his leadership, his inability to take responsibility for his actions. He doesn't want to admit what his role is in anything. We see that now. We saw it at the beginning. We saw it at the beginning. I'm saying this is a joint Congress people fault. Every person in the building, Republican and Democrat, saw how incompetent this person was. And yet and still, we are here where we are at. This is the worst. We are at the crossroads where we are at the worst of behavior. That we have a leader has performed the worst that he can do. He has committed murder in the name of the American people. Okay? It's going to be considered murder. It's always going to be considered murder. And we put a person in charge of our Defense Department who did not mind committing murder. That is where we are at. And I'm saying we could have foresaw it. We seen the writing on the wall. Donald Trump may not have seen it because he may not have seen jack shit. But the people around Donald Trump saw the incompetence of this person. And yet they put this person in front of us anyway and said he was competent enough not to commit murder in the name of the United States. And yet he did.
Well, as you know, sir, President Trump is committed to peace.
No, I just want yes or no answers.
The United States has spent billions of dollars.
Yes or no?
supporting
Yes or
Ukraine
no?
over years.
Just yes or no. Can I get a yes or no out of you?
We continue to send
Come on.
presidential drawdown
It's that
authority.
easy. Kindergartners
Ukraine.
could give me a yes or no. Yes or no.
Yes, we support peace in Ukraine.
Come on. Is this really leadership? You're an embarrassment to the United States. If Russia invades NATO allies, are you going to recommend to the president that we fulfill our Article 5 obligations?
Well, Russia has not invaded NATO allies.
No.
Thankfully, President Trump has invigorated the NATO
No.
alliance.
I reclaim my time. Yes or no? It's that simple.
There's Article 5 in NATO, which we recognize.
So is the answer yes or no?
That's what Article 5 is, yes.
Good. I'm glad you brought yourself to saying yes. Do you think political allegiance to Trump is a requirement for serving our nation, either in uniform or a civilian in the department?
I'm incredibly proud, as are millions of Americans.
No. Not today, Hegseth. Yes or no?
Hegseth is definitely an issue. But this is something that we should have saw. And as I said, I blame both parties, Republican and Democrat, for this debacle we call a Secretary of Defense.
Secretary, I'm somewhat puzzled. I grew up in Virginia where Robert E. Lee was revered. I think when I was a kid, his birthday was a school holiday. But as I grew older and learned more about American history, I learned that he fit the classic definition of a traitor. He took up arms against his country. He broke his oath as a member of the United States Army, which he took upon entering his career at West Point. Why are you going through these incredible gymnastics, finding current soldiers or other soldiers to rename? And you slipped a minute ago. You said we're returning these bases to their original names. Robert E. Lee, leading general of the Confederacy, Pickett, the other names. Why are you doing this? I don't understand what the motivation is to rename bases for people who took up arms against their country on behalf of slavery. What possible motivation can there be for this? Who is telling you to do this? Who is urging you to do this?
Senator, the veterans and service members across the country who have deployed from Fort Bragg or Fort Benning or Fort Hood or Fort Pickett, there's a legacy, there's a connection to those bases and to those places, to what they trained for there, what they did for, and what they came home back to. That matters.
And I think at this particular point, we have the white guilt or the white male victim mentality. I think when President Trump took over, it got into the driver's seat and it just went bizarre. It just went bongos. Because everything is from a racial lens, tinged with a racial lens. You get rid of DEI. You hire the token Patel. You put policies in place that only benefit white males. You purge the army military of other people besides white males. You want to purge them of all people of color and women. I mean, I think it was an overcorrection. I think it's an overcorrection, and now it's being rejected. Because now people see the agenda. They want to go back to a white male-dominated society where women are pregnant and barefoot, and we have no color in the country. And I get it. There's a threatening, there's a fear that this country is being overrun. Hispanic people are at an all-time high, fucking and eating. Maybe they just fucking and eating, I don't know. But the Mexican group has overran the black people, all the other color, all the other ethnic groups, and now they're gaining on the white community. I understand exactly what the fear is. I get it.
Matters to them. Ask enough of them, as I do all the time, before and later. And we recognize the service of those who were put into the replacement. No one's disputing that. I would never dispute that. What we're looking at is erasing history, erasing names, erasing base names that service members are tied to.
Not
Talk to people
erasing
that serve
history,
at
it's
Bragg.
recognizing
Ask people that serve
history.
at Fort Bragg or Fort Benning if they like the fact that the names have been returned. And to a man and to a woman, they will tell you, thank God we're back to Fort Bragg, and thank God and thankfully, because so many men and women in this country have served, there's a Benning and a Bragg and a Pickett and a hood has a silver star or a Medal of Honor that we could rename the base to because of the limits of what Congress allowed us to do. So this is something we've been proud to do, something that's important for the morale of the Army, and those communities appreciate that we've returned it back to what it was instead of trying to play this game of erasing names.
We're not erasing history, Mr. Secretary. We're recognizing history and recognizing that mistakes have been made in this country. The greatest of all was the Civil War, where people took up arms against their country on behalf of the institution of slavery. And to continue.
I wonder where people thought, why did people think those statues were taken down? Why were those statues taken down? That is the question. Can somebody put that in the chat? Why someone felt the need to take down the statue? No, take down the names off of the military buildings and statues and whatever was replaced. Why was there a point of that being replaced? Why?
Continue the practice of recognizing those people and honoring them by the naming of these bases is, I believe.
I wish you all would stop saying that garbage, Mike VQ8ZW. I wish you would stop saying that garbage. Every president that has been here has allowed people to come into the country. Stop it. You only hear about Joe Biden, let 20 million people in, because your leader, your incompetent leader, says it 50 times and you believe it. Every president has let people into the country. Every president, including Donald Trump in his first term. Stop saying it's all Biden's fault. It's not all Biden's fault. It's every president's fault. Every president let those people in. Every president got lax on their immigration. Everyone, including Donald Trump, right now. Because when Donald Trump started to deport people, all of his rich hotel and farming friends said, stop deporting all of our people. We don't have nobody to work for us. Stop deporting them. And what did Donald Trump do? He came out and said, oh, I think we have to give the exceptions to these people. Every president has done wrong by deportation. Every president has done wrong by deportation. Stop blaming it on Biden. Every president has done that, including your president right now. Man, y'all need to grow up sometime. It ain't all the Democrats' fault, and it's not all the Republicans' fault. It's all of their fault. This is why we have this incompetent Secretary of Defense. This is why we have this incompetent Attorney General. This is why we have these incompetent people that we do. Sick of that dumb shit. Y'all need to grow up. This is not about Democrats doing X, Y, and Z. It's about Republicans doing it too.
Believe an insult to the people of the United States. Let me talk about the budget. I don't understand why the budget is coming to us in two pieces. Why not give us an honest base budget instead of putting a piece of it in reconciliation? As I understand it, OMB is saying we're going to have a flat defense budget for the next 4 or 5 years. Are we planning reconciliation every year from now on? Why not give us an honest budget telling us what your priorities are, and then we can consider it. This committee.
I'm confused, Mike. What garbage am I talking? Am I saying that the immigration problem or the deportation problem is Donald Trump's problem? Or are you over there saying it's Biden's fault and only Biden's fault? Are you saying that? I'm saying it's both their faults. You're saying it's Biden's fault. You see the difference? You see the difference? I understand how to make the distinction. I understand that it's Washington's fault. I understand that it's all of their fault. You don't seem to understand that your party is culpable too. Bye, Tom Leary. I'm happy that you stopped by to talk trash, zombie, but I don't need what is it? I don't need instruction from you, Tom Leary. Zombie, I don't need instruction from you. Thank you very much.
Committee always works in a bipartisan basis on the defense budget. We all want to see some increases in the defense budget, and yet you're giving us this this fake. Here's a piece of the budget. Here's another. You're cutting in the base budget. You're cutting shipbuilding in half, and saying, "Well, we're going to make it up in reconciliation." Are we going to have reconciliation every year? Which basically, by the way, puts a significant part, 10 or 15% of the defense budget, in a wholly partisan decision-making process, whereas in the history of this committee, it's always been bipartisan. Why are we doing it this way?
Senator, from our view, the budget number 961 meets the requirements and threats that we face. And
That's not the number. The number is 892.6. You're adding reconciliation. That's my whole point. Why not give us a base budget of 961 or whatever the right number is, what you consider the right number, and then we can operate and make our decisions. Why do it in this bifurcated way that really is fooling the American people about what the defense budget is?
We're not trying to fool anybody, sir. It's two bills, one budget. We're working with OMB, and we feel very comfortable with the number of 961.
See, that's the problem. That's the problem that we have. We are in the mess that we're in because you all care more about what we did in the past. We care about what's happening today. We care about what's happening today. We have people in here that shouldn't be in here. Everybody agrees upon that. But what difference does it make whether it was Biden, Obama, Trump, Bush, whoever? We still have a problem with immigration. But yet, no, it's Biden's fault. We know who fucking fault it is. It's all of their fault. Oh, well, Biden let 20 million in. Trump let 5 million in. Obama let 6 million in. So it's got to be it's got to be Biden's fault, seeing as how he let the most in. That just don't even make no sense. Don't even make no sense, because we still have the immigration problem, don't we? We still have the immigration problem. Either way it goes. So blaming Biden or Obama or Trump or anybody else, we don't care. Nobody cares. We have a problem right now. Right now in front of us, it's not the immigration problem. That's not the problem. The problem right now is that we have incompetent people in charge of our... we have incompetent people that are in charge that should not be in charge. Right now we're talking about Pete Hegseth, who's the incompetent person, whose personal life overruns his professional life. That's why he can never be a professional. That's why he should not be a leader of any country whatsoever. This is what we're talking about. Pete Hegseth and his personal problems that override his professional ones.
Why don't you give us a straight up budget for the Defense Department? That's my question.
Senator, this is a straight up budget for the Defense Department. It's a 13% increase over what Joe Biden gave us.
It is a two-part defense budget. Part of it is in reconciliation instead of in the budget that's being presented to this committee. This committee only has a partial review of the budget. I don't understand why we can't have an honest, straightforward budget instead of this son of Oko that you're putting over on us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, but you all knew this. This is what we're saying. We seen the erratic behavior before right after he became the Secretary of Defense. We're seeing the incompetence. We're seeing the drama. We're seeing the whole shebang.
Chairman,
So the hot water we're in now, the hot water he's in now, we should have seen that. It's our fault. It's our leaders' fault. They should have seen it.
Response to my colleague from Oklahoma, I believe the Secretary of Defense has just responded last week and admitted that the $1 billion mission that he led against the Houthis, who do not have a navy, has not restored the transit of U.S. flag commercial vessels through the Red Sea, and in fact has resulted in the loss of 2 F-18 Hornets to the tune of $60 million apiece, as well as, I believe the last count was 7 Reaper drones to the tune of another $200 million. You are blowing through money like my fellow cadets and I did in our first Liberty after basic camp. Luckily, I didn't end up with a questionable tattoo. Your failures, Mr. Secretary, since you've taken office has been staggering. You sent classified operational information over Signal to chest thump in front of your wife, who, by the way, has no security clearance, risking service member lives in the process. You blew the $1 billion fight against the Houthis, whom, again, as my colleague says, has no navy, and yet you lost all of those aircraft. You've created such a hostile command environment that no one wants to serve as your chief of staff or work with you in other senior DoD leadership roles. But what we should all be talking about more than all of this is that you have an unjustified, un-American misuse of the military in American cities, pulling resources and attention away from core missions to the detriment of the country, the war fighters, and yes, the war fighting that you claim to love. I don't know if this is because you are too inexperienced and incompetent to understand the real threats facing our country, or if it's because you are just an unqualified yes man who can't tell the president how to keep Americans safe. You are focusing on renaming basis for Confederate generals. You said just now to Senator King that to a man and to a woman, we would rather be associated with the old Confederate names. Well, I am one of those women. I served at Fort Rucker, Alabama, a base that was named for a traitor who took arms against the United States of America, led troops who killed Americans. It was renamed for Mike Novosel, a Medal of Honor recipient, who in his citation for the Medal of Honor includes that he saved 29 American lives, to include hovering backwards in a helicopter towards an enemy bunker where a wounded American was laying and saved that person, including after being taken fire himself. I know a little something about what it takes to fly a helicopter when you've been hit by enemy fire. That was heroic. I'd rather be associated with Mike Novosel than a failed Confederate traitor. I don't know whether you are inexperienced or too incompetent, but I wonder when you will actually focus on our nation's warfighting mission. We know that California is just a deliberate, systematic, political, and dangerous campaign led by you. We should not be using our military to play cops against Americans. General Kane, as chairman, a key part of your job is to coordinate military planning across the joint force. Is the department currently incorporating into any military plans expanding the use of the reserve forces to include the National Guard or active duty troops to support domestic law enforcement, including in other locations in the United States?
Senator, we careful.
No, General.
Well, it's not really a yes or no question, Madam Senator. We plan all kinds of different things.
I think it is a yes or no question.
I'm not aware of anything, but the reason why I'm answering is the tags may be looking at something that I'm not aware of.
What are you doing at your level? You're not aware of that happening at your level? Because we know that on his first day, President Trump directed U.S. Northern Command to revise its unified command plan to add new planning requirements to combat, and I quote, criminal activities. A series of follow-up executive orders continue to redirect DoD priorities to supporting domestic law enforcement, including one in April that tells DoD, and I quote, use national security assets for law and order. In other words, do law enforcement's job. I'd like to enter these executive orders into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered.
Secretary Hegseth, you say you are focused on warfighting and warriors. These are your words. Yet you are diverting untold DoD resources and attention to fundamentally non-military mission of domestic policing. Across the country, we have qualified police officers who are trained for that mission. They know those streets better than the Marines you deploy to Los Angeles, who normally focus on the Indo-Pacific. And you recently approved 700 more troops in 3 other states to do admin and logistics works for ICE. You say all of this is valuable training, but I would much rather have our troops do tough, realistic training relevant to high-end combat. Instead of typing in spreadsheets for ICE, they should be conducting live fire maneuver exercises. Instead of patrolling American neighborhoods and standing in front of federal buildings, they should be rehearsing call for fire missions. We have local police who can stand in front of those federal buildings. And the list of distractions goes on. You are encouraging the DoD workforce to go work for DHS in increasing numbers. You're pulling the military away from facing foreign enemies who literally say things like death to America. And you're putting troops with weapons aimed at Americans. Mr. Secretary, let the military get back to its real job. Stop forcing them to do DHSs. And if you want to be DHS secretary, maybe you can apply for that job when you're fired from this one due to your incompetence.
Oh, reading them the riot act. But then we knew that. They knew that. This is why they hired him, but they knew he was not up to the job. And I'm saying this is everybody's fault. Disappointed in everyone because everybody knew.
Have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's their job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today? It's a yes or no thing. Authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man, list it out. Did you authorize them to detain or arrest? That is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the actual, did you authorize them to do that?
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public.
Okay, so say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please, yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement.
Do they have
ICE
the ability
officers
to arrest?
who are trying to do their job,
Okay.
deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous
So
administration.
they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As we've
Is that right?
stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and
Have
hand
you-
over to ICE. But there's
have
no
you given-
arresting going
have
on.
you-
And you know this better
Have
than
you
you're trying to
authorized
play
the
political
US
games.
military
There's no
to use
arresting
cyber
of U.S.
tools
personnel.
of the U.S. military against members of the protest? Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Okay, that's good. I love that answer. That's great. Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues
What is
across
that
the
based
aisle.
on? What evidence would you
It
have
is
that an
based
order
on
like that has
Donald
ever
Trump
been given?
giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So you're poo-pooing of this. It just shows you don't understand who we are as a country. Who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life. So I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Have you given the order to fire on American families, people, children? Have you been given the order? He could not answer that. He could not answer that. And this is a sad state of affairs because Pete Hegseth can't stand on anything. He cannot stand on anything. Hence the way he's trying to throw the blame back on his troops for what he has done.
Once we got to the point where a strike was imminent, I had taken the decision responsibility up to my level. Not many military decisions should be made by the Secretary of War. I believe in deferring those decisions to local commanders as much as possible. But because of the strategic implications of the first few strikes, I wanted to hold that decision at my level. And the briefing that I received before that strike was extensive, exhaustive, I would say, as each one is since. On the military side, on the civilian side, lawyers, intel analysts, red teaming, every aspect. What do we know? What do we know about their affiliation? A lot of things I can't share in this room to give us the kind of confidence that we know where this is coming from, who's driving it, who's on it, what their intentions are, where it's all the details you need to strike a designated terrorist organization, which is an important thing to remember at the top of all this. The president has designated these as terror organizations, poisoning and threatening the American people, making them a target just like Al-Qaeda. So in that room, in that moment, it was, I can't even remember exactly how long it would have been, 20, 30 minutes of a preview of exactly what's going on. And my job was to say, execute or don't execute. So I was satisfied with the strike criteria, yes. Saw the strike itself, which all of you have seen. There was probably 30 or 40 minutes is what I've been told of dust and he was on fire for a long time after that. I stayed for probably five minutes or so after, but ultimately at that point it was a tactical operation, and so I moved on to other things. I shouldn't be fighting tactics as the Secretary of War, so I moved on to other things. Later on, a couple hours later, I was told, hey, there had to be a reattack because there were a couple folks that could still be in the fight, access to radios, there was a link-up point of another potential boat. Drugs were still there. They were actively interacting with them. Had to take that read. I said, Roger, sounds good. From what I understood then and what I understand now, I fully support that strike. I would have made the same call myself. Those that were involved in 20 years of conflict, Iraq and Afghanistan or elsewhere, know that reattacks and restrikes of combatants on the battlefield happen often. In this particular case, it was well within the authorities of Admiral Bradley, who's an
this is like the arrogance of the incompetent. I don't understand. The arrogance of incompetence. Why didn't they grab him and say X, Y, and Z? I thought this was in the military book that said you cannot kill enemy combatants when they've given up. I thought that was in the book. Maybe shit ain't clear. Maybe shit ain't clear in the book. Maybe I just thought it was something else. Maybe I wasn't even right. I thought it was in the book that said you can't go around killing people. This is what I thought. Apparently that's not the case, because clearly he's the Secretary of Defense and he clearly doesn't understand his job. He clearly doesn't understand that you can't just go around killing people. Now, why is there a ambiguity about that?
Incredible American, an American hero. And the 22 or 23 strikes since have followed the similar protocol of ensuring we meet the criteria. The decision's not at my level anymore. And then we take the strike.
Did you at any time say that everybody on board should be killed?
Is anybody here from the Washington Post? I don't know where you get your sources, but they suck. Of course not. Anybody that's been in the Situation Room or they've been in the war room there, the Secretary's office, no, you don't walk in and say, kill him. It's just patently ridiculous. It's meant to create a cartoon of me.
So why is it that the first admiral that was in charge resigned? Because he refused to do illegal acts. Somebody put that in the chat. Why did the first admiral resign? Halsey. Why did he resign? Because he refused to do those illegal acts. Somebody put it in the chat. I'd like to know.
The decisions that we make and how we make them is ridiculous. The chairman and Admiral Bradley and everybody shot it down immediately because anybody that knows that's not how things go. There's a very defined process, specific criteria, go, no go, yes, no, lawyers, intel analysts, everything. And then after that, you simply say cleared hot or not.
And
so
did you have a plan to deal with survivors?
There was protocol for dealing with survivors, but in that, and frankly, there was 10 strikes later, there was a semi-submersible that I think folks here, meaning a submarine. You don't go fishing on a submarine full of drugs. And in that particular case, the first strike didn't take it out. A couple guys jumped off and swam, from what I understand, a ways away. When we struck the submarine a second time, it sunk. And then you had two people that you had to go get. And we had the ability to go get them. We gave them back to their host countries. That's a story that's already been out in the public. So we didn't change our protocol. It was just a different circumstance from the process.
So, Mr. Secretary, you will be releasing that full video.
We are reviewing it right now.
Is that a yes or no?
That is, the most important thing to me are the ongoing operations in the Caribbean with our folks that use bespoke capabilities, techniques, procedures in the process. I'm way more interested in protecting that than anything else. So we're reviewing the process and we'll see.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. I also want to add my sincere condolences to the family of Sarah Beckstrom, the National Guard soldier senselessly killed last week. And I also pray that Andrew Wolf, the other National Guard soldier fighting for his life, pulls through. As Chairman Aguilar has said, we have an affordability crisis. That's one reason Donald Trump is polling at the lowest level ever for a modern day president at this point in a term, only 36% approval, over 60% disapproval. And for folks who shop on Black Friday, last Friday, according to Salesforce, average prices across all products increased 7%. And then specifically for household goods, prices increased 24%. Things like furniture, appliances, dining, and decor all skyrocketed. And what is Donald Trump doing? He wants to make sure his Great Gatsby ballroom is as big as it can be. Trump and his rubber stamp Republicans are not focusing on the affordability crisis. And now we have healthcare costs skyrocketing. And if we don't extend ACA tax credits, it's going to mean that millions of Americans are either going to lose health insurance or pay a lot more for the healthcare premiums. Now I'd like to talk about war crimes. Last week, Secretary Hegseth lied and denied media reports that the U.S. military ordered a second strike on defenseless shipwrecked survivors.
And that's the thing. We can't have our Secretary of Defense lying about his decisions. People are okay with him lying about his decisions. And I blame the whole Congress for that, for putting this incompetent person in charge in the first place. I blame them all. Because as you can see from all of the video clips that I gave you, this person was contentious. This person was uninformed every time he got in front of the camera. Every time. He always hit the wrong note. And we knew that, yet and still we confirmed him.
Then yesterday, both the White House and Hegseth said actually it was Admiral Bradley who ordered the second strike. I served on active duty as a JAG for 4 years and then an additional 21 years in the reserves. And let me be very clear, killing shipwreck survivors is a war crime. The Pentagon's
I don't understand why people don't understand that. Killing shipwrecked people is a war crime. I don't understand why people don't understand that. Any person that kills innocent civilians should be held accountable. If not court-martial or whatever, but they should be held accountable. Hegseth is trying to walk away from what his decision. He's trying to walk away from the decision that he made.
His own Department of Defense law manual on the law of war literally says that, quote, orders to fire.
The first admiral did walk away, Mike. Admiral Hosley did walk away because he was not going to do illegal things. It was Hegseth and this admiral that did not walk away.
On the shipwreck will be clearly illegal. The Department of
And there was a big stink about that too, Daniel. So why are we talking about Obama? There was a big stink about him doing that too. Y'all love to mention what Biden and Obama did, but then in the same breath, you cannot condemn your fearless, goofy clown leader, Donald Trump, for the things that he did. If you're going to blame Obama and Biden for killing Americans in Yemen and doing X, Y, and Z, then you need to hold your person accountable. You need to hold your president accountable. Let's see if you do that. What is your What is your president guilty of, Goofy Daniel? And Mike, what is your president guilty of? Obama's guilty of killing people in Yemen. He's guilty of killing people in Yemen. What is your boss? What is your goofy president guilty of? I'll wait till you come up with it. I'll wait. You never want to him to take accountability, but you always want to blame Biden or Obama. Give some accountability to your leader.
Justice must conduct an investigation into the war crime and hold all those accountable, including Secretary Hegseth. He allegedly said, quote, kill them all. If the Trump administration does not hold the people accountable, I guarantee you a future administration will do so, because there is no statute of limitations for war crimes. And now I have a message for the members of the United States military. Thank you for your service to our great nation. And for those of us who served, we know that we all followed a code of conduct. And part of that code of conduct is to not lie and to accept responsibility.
There you go again. There we hear again, all the goofies in the chat. Oh, Obama wasn't held accountable because the media didn't say anything. Oh, Obama wasn't held accountable because it was a Democrat hoax. Oh, Obama wasn't held accountable because of blah, blah, blah. No, we're talking about your president. They were held accountable. That doesn't mean they go to prison, because presidents are immune from going to prison, goofy. That's why he wasn't held. He wasn't put before any kind of committee, because they're not going to do that to a president. But you can say it. I can say it, that he was held accountable, or he should be held accountable, or he should have been held accountable for killing those people in Yemen. Now, let's see what you're going to say about your precious boss. What should your boss be held accountable for? I'll wait.
Unfortunately, the head of the Department of Defense, Secretary Hegseth, engaged in dishonorable conduct. He stated on national TV, quote, I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. And instead of accepting responsibility for what happened, Hegseth chose to throw Admiral Bradley under the bus. Shame on Pete Hegseth. He is a coward. He must resign. You deserve better.
Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who was in those briefings this week, Republican Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Senator Cotton, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me on, Kristen.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm still waiting for you all to come up with something that your president should be held accountable for, what Trump should be held accountable for. Let's be clear. I want to hear one of you MAGAs say what your president has done on the same level as Obama and Biden, and he needs to be held accountable for it. Somebody tell me one of those things, because he's got plenty of stuff you can pick from. I'll wait.
After a very big week, I want to ask you about our new reporting. NBC News is reporting this morning that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, his order was to kill all 11 individuals on that boat because they were on a list of narco terrorists who intelligence and military officials determined could be legally targeted. Was Secretary Hegseth's order to kill everyone on the boat because they were on this target list, Senator?
The order, like the entire operation, Kristen, is to destroy these drug boats, which are running drugs into our country from foreign drug cartels and traffickers that are killing hundreds of Arkansans every year and hundreds of thousands of Americans. Now, of course, before our military conducts such a strike, they have multiple sources of intelligence that give high confidence that everyone on that boat is a foreign drug trafficker, not an innocent civilian who's being human trafficked, for instance. And therefore, Secretary Hegseth said, and I agree, they're all valid targets. Now, this controversy, let's remember, all started with a Washington Post story about 9 days ago that said after the first strike, there were 2 survivors that were helpless and then they were ordered to kill these helpless survivors. That is simply not the case. They were not floating in the ocean on a wooden plank or in life jackets. They were on the capsized vessel. They were not incapacitated in any way. It was entirely appropriate to strike the boat again to make sure that cargo was destroyed. It is in no way violation of the law of war. And I think the Washington Post owes Secretary Hegseth, and especially Admiral Mitch Bradley, a highly decorated career Navy SEAL, an apology for that slander.
Okay, and we're going to get to what you saw in the video momentarily, but I just want to be very clear because what you're saying is significant, Senator. It sounds like you're confirming, did Admiral Bradley brief lawmakers that in fact all of the people on that boat were on a military target list? Is that accurate?
I did not hear him personally say anything about a military target list. Now, he had several briefings throughout the day. I wasn't in the briefing, for instance, with Mark Warner, my counterpart on the Senate Intelligence Committee. I can only say what he told me. He said they had high confidence based on multiple sources of intelligence that everyone on that boat was part of a foreign terrorist organization and been designated by the U.S. government.
So they could be
These drug
legally
cartels.
targeted. They could be lethally and legally targeted, he
Yes.
argued.
Yes.
Okay.
Both before the first strike and after the first strike.
Was Admiral Bradley acting on Secretary Hegseth's orders, Senator?
Well, anytime you have an operation like this, there's an operation order. It's written down. It's got very detailed instructions. I think because this was the first strike, Secretary Hegseth and Admiral Bradley both wanted to be present and be making the decision. As you heard Secretary Hegseth in the opening say, he initiated the first strike. You've seen the video. There's a lot of smoke. It takes a long time to clear. I'm sure Secretary Hegseth had many other matters that he had to attend to, and he trusts Admiral Bradley. Once the smoke had cleared, once cloud cover cleared, it was clear that the first strike had not destroyed the boat. Then Admiral Bradley made the decision for the second strike. Now, in subsequent strikes since then, because there's been more than 20, obviously it's no longer Secretary Hegseth or even four-star generals making that decision, nor should it be. But on the first strike, I believe they both wanted to be present and be observing it.
Let me ask you about the aftermath of that first strike. The Pentagon's Law of War Manual, which you're familiar with having served in Iraq and Afghanistan, says, quote, orders to fire upon the shipwrecked would be clearly illegal. Given that, how was that follow-on strike of 2 survivors legal, Senator?
Well, again, Kristen, they were not incapacitated. They were not in the water, surviving only because they had a life jacket or hanging to a plank of wood. They were sitting on that boat. They were clearly moving around on it. That is in contrast, for instance, to another strike that Secretary Hegseth described just yesterday in October, in which you had 2 survivors who were in that state. They were essentially just dog paddling in the water. And what happened on that strike? A U.S. vessel went and picked those survivors up and took them back to their home country. That's just an example of how our military makes these decisions based on the facts and circumstances of each particular case, consistent with laws and with the directive you just stated.
I hear you saying they weren't incapacitated, and yet Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington, the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee, saw this very differently. He saw that video. He said, quote,
because the Republicans are trying to cover for this administration. And we all know they're lying. We all know they're lying. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Looks like 2 classically shipwrecked people. Other lawmakers who saw the video said the 2 men appeared to raise their arms, potentially to signal that they were trying to surrender. Senator, why did Admiral Bradley interpret those actions as anything other than these 2 men trying to seek help and surrender?
He didn't interpret him wrong. The Republican part of this whole thing is lying. They're lying, trying to cover for Hegseth and Trump and Beasley. Any person that killed a person without provocation, once that person gave up, they're lying. Like usual, they're lying. This man right here, lying. Why is he lying? I'll show you in a minute.
Survive.
Well, again, they were sitting or standing on top of a capsized boat. They weren't floating helplessly in the water. And Kristen, I don't think it matters all that much what they were trying to do. It looked at one point like they were trying to flip the boat back over, presumably to rescue its cargo and continue their mission.
Or to stay afloat,
Maybe they were signaling to other airplanes or drug cartel boats because they're in waters that are just off drug cartel areas. At one point, the guy takes off his T-shirt. Maybe he's trying to get a suntan. It doesn't really matter what they were trying to do. What matters is that they were not in a shipwreck state, distressed, dog paddling in the water at all. And therefore, that boat, its cargo, and those drug traffickers remained valid targets. And I think what the Democrats object to here is not the second strike, it's the first strike and every other strike.
And we are
on
gonna,
all these boats.
We are going to talk about that as well. You continue to talk about one of them took off his shirt as if he's trying to suntan. But again, your colleagues, some of them saying, look, they were waving their arms around. Isn't it possible that even the act of taking off a T-shirt could have been part of an attempt to get attention for help?
Or it could have been an attempt to signal to another cartel boat to come pick them up and pick up the cargo.
But is there confirmation of what they
Kristen,
were doing
but again,
and what their intentions
for Admiral
were?
Bradley's decision, it doesn't really matter what they were doing. They were on that boat. That boat was still a valid target. They were not in a state of distress on a plank of wood in the ocean like subsequent survivors were. And when that was the case in October, our military did the right thing. It set a vessel, it picked them up, it took them back to shore.
You're saying this boat was a threat to the United States, and yet NBC is reporting that Admiral Bradley told the lawmakers the drugs were heading first to Suriname, that's another South American country, and then ultimately to Europe or Africa. How is a boat that's not heading to the United States an imminent threat to this country, Senator?
Well, that's one possibility based on the tactics and techniques that we've observed of these drug cartels. They send smaller boats to sea, and then they link up with a larger boat before they continue their mission. I didn't hear that specifically from Admiral Bradley in my briefing, but what we know is that these drug cartels, which are designated foreign terrorist organizations.
And you do know that it takes them several fill-ups of gas before they can get to the United States. Tom Cotton is a bootlegger extraordinaire. He lies all the time. He lies about what he wears. He lies about the color of the sky. He lies all the time. Okay? Pete Hegseth bragged about doing these He bragged about doing these things. Hegseth bragged about them on Fox News. So we know he knew what he was doing. We know that he knew what he was doing. And what he was ordering, we know
the
that.
U.S. military strike that blew apart a Venezuelan drug boat in the Southern Caribbean. It left nearly a dozen suspected Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists dead. The president later shared a video of the strike on Truth Social, confirming the blast occurred in the Southcom area of responsibility, while Fox News reports the terrorists were in international waters transporting illegal narcotics to the U.S. A lot of questions surrounding this video and what the Trump administration did. So we want to play out the very latest from this Wednesday morning as Pete Hegseth joined alongside Fox and Friends with an exclusive interview. Take a listen.
Good morning. So the president
Great to see you all.
Good to see you too. Thanks for your service. The president put that video of him eviscerating, blowing up that boat coming across with all of the drugs on board. And the president said on social, on Truth Social, let them be on notice to anybody bringing drugs to the U.S. Beware. So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country.
He was right there when it was done. He bragged another time that he was right there. Pete Hegseth was always there to know what was going on.
With illicit drugs. Last year, under the Biden administration, all 4 years, 100,000 Americans died from drug-related, from drugs, from the use of drugs, many of which poured in from Central and South America through our southwest border. Now, we're sealing the border, but President Trump is willing to go on offense in ways that others have not been, and to send that clear signal to Tren de Aragua, Cartel del Sols, and others emanating from Venezuela. We're not going to allow this kind of activity. You're poisoning our people. We've got incredible assets, and they are gathering in the region. And so you want to try to traffic drugs, it's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate in our hemisphere.
Well, Mr. Secretary, you made it very clear when we had the opportunity to visit the southern border at Fort Bliss, the Southern Command knew exactly where these folks were and that you guys were going to take them out. I guess the question is, for this operation specifically, was this a drone attack or was this hellfire from a helo?
I can't disclose precisely how this went down. I can tell you it was precision. It was very well understood exactly what assets would be used in order to achieve the effect. So that's classified how it was done. But you can see publicly a lot of the assets that we have in the region, which to include an ARG-MU, which holds 2,200 combat infantry Marines and has plenty of its own organic assets. So we've got assets in the air, assets in the water, assets on ships. Because this is a deadly serious mission for us, and it won't stop with just this strike. Anyone else trafficking in those waters who we know is a designated narco-terrorist will face the same fate.
But this is the one thing I cannot get past. I don't care how you all look at it. I don't care how you slice it, how people bring it down, how people X, Y, and Z. I didn't find any law that said, if we find that you sell drugs and you're a drug dealer and you're on a boat and you're heading to the United States, we think you're heading to the United States, that you deserve to die. I haven't heard any law that says that. And I have asked people to put it in the chat. I have asked people to put it in the chat. Where did we see any law that said that that any kind of drug dealer is supposed to die? I never heard it whatsoever. And I don't know of any kind of law. Evidence is destroyed. Nobody's saying anything. I don't understand what law says that because you're a drug dealer, you deserve to die. Because I don't think we have any. So if there's no law that says we're supposed to die, why are they out there killing people in the Caribbean instead of taking the drugs for evidence, instead of taking the drug dealers for prisoners? Why is that? This is what I want to know. Nobody has come up with the right explanation. I don't get it. I don't get it. But we knew what we were hiring when we hired Hegseth, because this is his confirmation hearing, and this is what he was acting like in the confirmation hearing. He was acting the same way he's acting now. What you start with is what you got. And this is bullshit. So everybody is culpable. Democrats and Republicans and Donald Trump. Specifically, Donald Trump is culpable. He's incapable of picking competent people. He should be staying away from HR. Now, see, that's something I just ain't gonna tolerate, Daniel Britton, you fucking toaster. You fucking zombie. You fucking white boy victimized manhood. Something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with you. And I don't understand how you even function, because your IQ has got to be less than 50 for you to come into a chat and say some dumb shit like you're saying you're an ignorant retard. That's a problem. This is a problem. This is why you don't see black people flocking to your party. You fucking animal, you. This is why we don't see people flocking to the Republican Party. You trash ass white boy. This is why you don't see people coming to your party anymore. Bitch made white boy. This is why when you say shit like this, I'm nice until I don't have to be nice. Not anymore, bitch made white boy. Don't you come in here and ever disrespect me when I don't disrespect you at all. That right there is what you call disrespect from me. I can get even more disrespectful if you want me to. Even more disrespectful if you want me to, bitch. I ain't even gonna block you, trash ass white boy. I ain't even gonna block you. I'm just gonna keep calling you a trash ass white boy. Daniel Britton, trash white boy. All you got is the nugger. That's all you got is the nugger. In with the hard ER. Trash ass white boy. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. Nugger, N-U-G-G-E-R, is what the trash ass white boy called me. Trying to be funny, but you're not funny. You're just an idiot. Nobody said anything about race, creed, or color. Bitch ass white boy. You want me to get more disrespectful? I will. Otherwise, shut your ass up or get out of the chat. Sure, I'm mad, just me. Bitch ass white boy. Number 2. Sure it is. But I just have to explain it to you. I work 8 hours a day. No, I'm sorry. I work 2 hours a day, but I get paid 8 hours to do 2 hours worth of work. I do 2 hours at the beginning of my day, and then the rest of the day I have for myself. Bitch ass white boy. Don't know anything about EBT. Never did. Never going to. Never needed to. Bitch ass white boy. So don't come in here talking about DEI hire, EBT, or any fucking thing else. You want me to get more disrespectful? Get disrespectful. I'll get disrespectful. I'll open up the phone line and let you call me and get disrespectful. Then I really will get disrespectful. No, Errol Hammer, no. Shut your ass up. If you're not a part of the conversation, shut your ass up. He came in here and was disrespectful and called me the N-word with a hard ER. Shut your ass up. I'm just giving him the same energy that he gave me. Shut your ass up. This ain't got nothing to do with you.
and our meetings are fairly long. We should reflect over previous secretaries of defense and their hearings and ask ourselves a simple question. Has the civilian leadership of the Pentagon under the administration of both parties proven up to the challenge? Often the answer has been no. The civilian leadership has not built the Department of Defense to meet the.
I know that we don't have people in here saying, wait a minute, who is that? Mike. I know you're not in here saying, I think I talked to you the other day. I know you're not in here saying us left people are defending cartels when you got a pedophile president and you defend him till your teeth fall out. Shut your ass up until you willing to give up your damn president when you know he a PDF file, when you know he is. Down in your heart of hearts, down in your drawers, you know he is, because he was friends with his good friend pedophile Epstein. Don't tell us that we're defending cartels when you can't even give your pedophile president up. Shut your ass up.
The moment. And this is our moment to correct that. A few examples illustrate how.
Sure I can't, just me, retard. Sure I can't. You see how easy it was for me to say the word retard? Sure I can't. 2 hours because I can't work anymore. Sure I can't. No, I just earned the right to. Unlike you, I just earned the right to work just 2 hours a day.
Leaders in the past have fallen short. Most of the department's signature programs run years behind schedule and billions of dollars over cost. Vital initiatives have suffered, such as the F-35, the new Sentinel ICBM, and the Navy's shipbuilding program, including the Constellation-class frigate. The Department of Defense desperately needs civilian leaders who listen to the advice of combatant commanders, many of whom would benefit from innovative systems. Yet a risk-averse DoD culture has kept too many promising technologies on the wrong side of the so-called valley of death.
Sorry, I'm exhausted from dealing with you, white trash white boy. I'm exhausted from dealing with you, Daniel. This is what we get right here, you all. This is you all's representation. This is you all's representation of the white male privilege. This is it right here. Daniel Britton, 3685. You in with the hard ER Democrats. Had 4 years to leak the information about Trump. You see why I am holding and I'm being restrained because of this kind of garbage right here? No, we gonna put you on the screen. We gonna put your white trash ass on the screen, Daniel Britton. White trash ass on the screen, Daniel Britton. Because I would love to drop the link and you come up and you talk that shit for real. Here we go. Here we go. All for you. Here it is. Any taker, anybody that want to hit the stage. There's the link. I just dropped the link. Hey, oh shit. Oh yes. I just dropped the link. Anybody that want to come up and call me the hard ER to my face. And you got to be on camera when you do it. Because I'm finna get on camera. And then you better be able to take what I say. You better be able to take what I say. Okay? You want to get on camera and you want to talk about the hard ER. I dropped the link just for you bitch motherfuckers who got a whole bunch of shit to say. Daniel Britton, hey, hit the link, bitch. Hit the link. I want you to hit the link.
A tenuous period between experimental prototypes and production contracts. Defense companies backed by venture capital receive less than 1% of defense contracts. As we all know, the Pentagon still cannot even pass an audit. The department must simplify and streamline its bureaucracy so it can respond to innovation. Staffs.
I'm sorry, Jess, you got the link now. No. Don't call me EBT. Don't call me ghetto. Here's the link. Drop the link. Come up and talk all the shit you want. Come on up. I dare you to come on up. Dare you to come on up. Come on up, Daniel. Britton, you talking all that foo-foo la-la. All that foo-foo la-la. Come on up. Come on up, Daniel Britton.
Have ballooned. Organizations are top heavy. Civilian leaders have promised time and again to slim down the bureaucracy and perhaps genuinely hoped to. Every day, men and women in uniform.
I invited you, just me too. Come on up, just me. Come on up, just me. I want to hear you say all of that with a full chest. Full chest. And then I'll come on camera and I'll prove that I'm a woman. We want to see what you are. Full chest. We want to see what you are.
Make tremendous contributions to U.S. security. They and the American people deserve a Pentagon that does the same. Today's Department of Defense is no longer prepared for great power competition. It is not a national defense institution ready to achieve and sustain technological supremacy across the range of operations.
This is what you call keyboard warriors. Keyboard warriors that don't know how to back up what they say. They got plenty of stuff to say behind the camera. Plenty of stuff to say behind the camera. Daniel Britton, scared of an old lady. Scared of an old lady. Wow.
Admittedly, this nomination is unconventional. The nominee is unconventional. Just like that New York developer who rode down the escalator.
That link is free. That link is free. The link is free. Pop that link, bitch. Pop that link.
Later in 2015 to announce his candidacy for president. That may be what makes Mr. Hegseth an excellent choice to improve this unacceptable status quo that I just described. He is a decorated post 9/11 combat veteran. He will inject a new warrior ethos into the Pentagon, a spirit that can cascade from the top down. Mr. Hegseth will bring energy and fresh ideas to shake up the bureaucracy. He will focus relentlessly on the warfighter and the military's core missions, deterring wars and winning the ones we must fight.
And you know who this is right here? This person right here is the person who opened up the investigation on Hegseth. He's the person that is leading the charge for impeachment. This gentleman right here, okay? Mr. Wicker is the one who opened up the investigation, right? He opened up the investigation into Hegseth's behavior. He's the one. So we're going to see how far. Now he's at the confirmation. He's at Hegseth's confirmation. Singing his praises. Now he's the one calling for his resignation.
He will bring a swift end to corrosive distractions such as DEI. Today, many simply acknowledge and live with these systemic problems I have mentioned earlier in acquisition, accountability, technology transition, and organizational civil service reform. Mr. Hegseth will actually move to fix these issues decisively. In short, I'm confident that Mr. Hegseth, supported by a team of experienced top officials, will get the job done. The Secretary of Defense is an incredibly important position, but the Secretary's span of control is limited. The Pentagon is vast with 3 million plus personnel, uniformed civilian and contractor. A successful secretary understands that steering the ship means focusing his attention on strategic level priorities. The secretary must be supported with exceptional subordinates who will run the day-to-day affairs of the Office of the Secretary of Defense, the military services, and the other DoD components. I'm also confident that as an infantryman, Mr. Hegseth understands the military principle of commander's intent. Communicate the clear objective, empower subordinates to use initiative and judgment, and hold everybody accountable. We must not underestimate the importance of having a top-shelf communicator as Secretary of Defense. Other than the president, no official plays a larger role in telling the men and women in uniform, the Congress, and the public about the threats we face and the need for a peace through strength defense policy. I have no doubt Mr. Hegseth will excel in a skill in which many of his predecessors have fallen short. Much has been made of both Mr. Hegseth's personal life and some of his policy pronouncements. Regarding his personal conduct, Mr. Hegseth has admitted to falling short, as we all do from time to time. It is noteworthy that the vast majority of the accusations leveled at Mr. Hegseth have come from anonymous sources. Contrast these anonymous accusations with the many public letters of support and commendation. We have seen letters from people who served with Mr. Hegseth. These individuals have worked with him professionally. They really know him and his character. These patriotic Americans have been willing to put their names and reputations on the line to support Mr. Hegseth. I look forward to sharing these testimonials with the American people. Let me mention one right now. It comes from David Bellavia, who earned the Medal of Honor for heroic actions in combat in Fallujah, Iraq. David Bellavia writes the following: Pete is fearless, unflappable, and confronts conflicts head-on. He's a leader to the core. When Pete is confirmed as the next Secretary of Defense of the United States of America, this country will finally know the privilege of having a true ambassador able to speak on behalf of this generation and its two-decade global war on terror.
Now you have to look and see all of the things that they waxed poetically about Hegseth, said he was competent, said he was all of these things. And even in the confirmation hearing, you could see that some of the things he was saying were off. Some of the things he was confronted with, he couldn't answer. Let's see if he has this confrontation correct.
Recollection is I've never denied anyone the opportunity to ask the second round of questions as I chaired. I would request a second round. And my time is running. I think these are
Oh, yeah, you're using your time. No, if the timekeeper will pause the time. I must say, I think we're going to have adequate time for questioning, and I know Democrat members have coordinated their questions as much as we have, and we are following the same exact precedent on all things that we did with Secretary Austin. So I respectfully understand what you're saying, but I think we have an agreement. It's been known for quite some time, and I intend to stick with that agreement which we made last December. What is your second request?
Second, has been publicly reported, you and I have both seen the FBI background investigation of Mr. Hegseth. And I want to say for the record, I believe the investigation was insufficient, frankly. There are still FBI obligations to talk to people. They have not had access to the forensic audit, which I referenced to. And
yeah, they you keep coming up with, I don't know. What is this question that you're asking? Tell us what a designated terrorist organization is first. Now, you know what that is, and we probably know what that is, so we don't need to answer that question. What difference does that make? Somebody answered it already. It's simple. It's illegal to kill combatants after the battle is over, and they show you no danger at all. It's written in the laws. I don't understand why this is so hard for people to understand. It's illegal to kill combatants after the battle is over. That's it. That's it. And it's written into the laws. That's it. And show the law. Who is it? Show the law. We don't need to show the law. You know how to Google. Google is everybody's friend. Everybody's friend is Google. Everybody's friend is Google. What the fuck does designated terrorist organizations have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? You still have to deal with the rules of engagement. You still have to deal with the laws of engagement, regardless of whether they're a drug dealer or not. And we all know it ain't about the drugs. No way. We all know it ain't about the drugs. They've been trying to get over there and to have regime change for all these years. Since Trump's first term, they've been trying to get regime change. But they can't say they want regime change, so they made this bullshit up about drug wars. They made that bullshit up about drug wars because they really wanted regime change. In order to get regime change, they got to go through Congress to do the regime change thing. So that's why they did the designated terrorist thing. That's why they did it. Because you have to go through Congress in order to do a regime change thing. Of course, I don't know what I'm talking about. Of course, I don't, Daniel. Of course I don't. Of course, I don't. Absolutely. I don't know anything. Absolutely.
The person who had access to was quite critical of Mr. Hegseth. I think people on both sides have suggested that they get the report. I know your colleagues have asked for it. Senator Thune assured me personally that he thought it was an appropriate idea. So I would ask,
because this is what they do, Jess. They can't help themselves. I didn't see nobody catch that link though. Because you can catch this fucking fade, bring your ass up here. You can catch this fucking fade, but you don't want that.
I would say too, as a precedent, one of President Trump's appointees had similar, very complicated personal issues. The report was made available to all the members of the committee. We would be following precedent. I ask that that be made possible.
Again, there's been much discussion about this, and what I intend to do is follow the exact precedent that we've had for the last two hearings with regard to secretaries of defense. Not only Secretary Austin, but Secretary Mattis 8 years ago. And that was for the chair and the ranking.
Yes, the chair and the ranking committee. This is where we are at with this contention, and this is what we saw when we did not a fight, but
the helm, I think, will go a long way in making sure our enemies know there's a new sheriff in town.
We love criminals and corruption. That's funny. That's funny coming from this president and anybody who supports this president. That's hilarious.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you very much, Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having this hearing. Thank you for being here, Mr. Hegseth. And I want to join in expressing appreciation and respect for your service to our country. And thanks to all the veterans who are here today. And thank you for your service as the ranking member of the Veterans Affairs Committee. I hope we can focus on doing better for our veterans and doing better in management of the Department of Defense. There's always room for improvement. I think what we need in that position is not just better, but the best in financial management, because those decisions are life and death decisions affecting the 3.4 million Americans who serve our national security and our national defense and put their lives on the line. I want to talk about financial.
Hey, Paul, why don't you put in the chat how we are pro-Democrats? Put in the chat how we're pro-Democrats. I'd like to know. How are we as Democrats pro-Democrats? Please put it in the chat. We'd like to know how we are pro-Democrats. I'd love to hear how we are pro-Democrats from a Republican who is supporting this president and his regime. Please put in the chat how we are pro-Democrats. How we are pro-Democrats, please.
Financial mismanagement at the two organizations that you headed, which are the only test of your financial management that we have before this committee, the Veterans for Freedom and Concerned Veterans for America. You took over the Veterans.
That part, gifted gays, that part. That's what the That's what the zombies don't understand. That part right there, gifted gays. That part right there. Where's he at? Sorry. That part right there. Only the goofy, only the zombies think something else. Only the zombies think something else.
For Freedom in 2007. In 2008, you raised $8.7 million, but spent more than $9 million, creating a deficit. By January 2009, you told donors that the organization had less than $1,000 in the bank and debts of $434,000. By 2010, revenue at the Veterans for Freedom had dropped to about $265,000. In the next year, it had dropped further to $22,000. You don't dispute these numbers, do you?
Senator, I'm extremely proud of the work me and my fellow vets did at Vets for Freedom. A bunch of young vets with no political experience, a small group working hard every single day. We raised donor funds. And I took, and we have letters submitted for the record from almost everyone that worked with me every single day, including our chief operating officer, who will attest that every dollar we raised was used intentionally toward the execution of our mission, which is supporting the war fighters, exactly why we're here today, the war fighters in the Iraq surge. There was a campaign in 2008, Senator. It was Barack Obama versus John McCain.
Ask you another
we believe
question,
John McCain would be the right person to win, and so we spent
tax
more.
returns from that organization.
I'm glad they're for the record.
I'm going to ask to be entered into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
These tax returns are yours. They have your signature. And I'm going to ask that members of the committee review them because they're the only documents. I've asked for others. I've asked for the FBI report that would presumably document, it should have documented, this kind of financial mismanagement. And these are the 990s from that organization. By the year of 2011, donors had become so dissatisfied with that mismanagement, they in effect ousted you. They merged that organization with Military Families United, and thereafter you joined a second organization as executive director.
In between, Senator, I went to Harvard University.
I want to ask you questions. I want to ask you questions about Concerned Veterans for America. Again, another set of tax returns, the 990s from that organization. I ask they be made part of the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, both of those returns are now part of the record.
2011 to 2016. At the end of 2013, shortfall of $130,000. At the end of 2014.
The thing is, they knew he was incompetent. They knew he was an issue when they hired him at his confirmation hearing. But yet and still they did. This is a Democrat and a Republican problem. They did this. They did this.
The resolution that you supported from Senator Kane, that would be a little bit different now that we're deeper and know more about some of these strikes in the Caribbean?
I think more people are coming around to be concerned about what's going on when you have Lindsey Graham, the Wall Street Journal, and other Republicans saying that the second strike, bombing people who are shipwrecked or clinging to wreckage, that would be illegal in the words of people who are very supportive of what the president's doing. That's a whole new scenario. So I think we've entered into uncharted territory here. I think there's a broad consensus that it's illegal to kill people who are clinging to wreckage. I think there's still some question whether the initial bombing is illegal as well. I think that you can't really just say, well, we're at war, we're not declaring war, and Congress is not going to.
This is what we keep telling the goofies in the chat. You just can't kill people because you want to. In the chat. Goofy. What's a war? What's designated as a terrorist? No, you just don't get to kill people. I think this senator would know better than most of you.
To be allowed to vote on this, but because we're at war, we say these people are combatants, we can do whatever we want, including killing them the first time, or if they're still.
That's the argument that they're making. They're making the argument that they can kill anybody that they want. They're making the argument because they're designated as terrorists, they get to kill them whenever they want. We don't believe that. We ain't talking about Obama. We ain't talking about Obama.
Floating around after we've tried to kill them once, killing them again. I think even the administration knows they made a big mistake here, because a couple months later, what did they do? Then they rescued people. But even that leads to more questions. The people they rescued, they didn't prosecute.
Defending a president that's a pedophile, even as we got witnesses, even as we got people that say he was at the island. Shut your ass up, Larry. Soon as you start defending your president, soon as you come up with some kind of defense for your president, then we'll come up with a defense to defend drug dealers. But seeing as how we ain't doing that, you need to shut your ass up, because it is not comparable.
They didn't say, well, we scooped up 2 people, we scooped up their guns and their weapons and the drugs that were floating on the boat. No mention of any kind of drugs or anything, no evidence, no interrogation. Normally, you'd interrogate people all the way up the line.
All the way, Senator. I'm with you all the way.
We just got a letter back from the Coast Guard today. Their overall statistics are that 25% of boats that are boarded don't have drugs on them. We now have specific information from the Coast Guard that of the boats.
I didn't know there was any kind of law. I didn't know there was any kind of law. Y'all need to freaking school me.
Boats captured by the Coast Guard before we started the
Right.
bomb
I never heard of that
campaign. In the traditional sense, when the Coast Guard captured boats off of Venezuela, 21% of them did not have drugs. So the idea that we're just blowing up boats where historically the rate is 21% of them are not even smugglers is outrageous. Hopefully this is going to unify the American people to stand up and say, killing people willy-nilly is against the law.
But Senator,
Killing
what
people-
do you think of the administration?
Responsibilities.
Let's go right here. Let's go right here.
Have you seen any evidence that there were survivors on these boats, on this particular boat? Have you seen any evidence that there were survivors? What intelligence have you seen?
I've been offered no briefings, and I think that's purposeful because I've been skeptical of this. So no briefings have been offered to me. We are asking for them. We are supportive of the Armed Services Committee looking into this, but this has been very selective in briefings that have been given to people, primarily given to people who are already apologists for the administration.
And do you have confidence in the defense secretary at this point?
I'm very, very concerned about an order that would say, kill them all, kill them, after they've already been wounded, after they're drifting apart. But for some people, this is distinctly different, the second strike. I think both strikes are actually illegal. I don't think you can just name people and say, well, they've got drugs. Well, where's the proof? That's an allegation. And these people are 2,000 miles away. People don't realize these outboard boats have no capability of reaching America. Take them like 20 stops to refuel to get up here. In all likelihood, none of these.
I don't even know what you're talking about, groan and shower. We don't even know what you're talking about. You're on a whole bunch of bullshit subjects. Nobody's talking about Democrats. We're talking about Pete Hegseth. Stay on topic. You beggars can never stay on topic. It's always Democrat. You see a Democrat in the corner and y'all just lose your mind. Learn to stick on topic. We're talking about your Republican senator right here talking about Pete Hegseth doing a criminal act. Your Republican senator, not Democrats.
Boats are coming to America. It's a completely made up and false sense that, oh, we're at war, we can do whatever we want. But if Congress wants to vote on it, oh, no, we're not at war. So they're at war if they can do whatever they want with no oversight.
That's right. They're at war if they can do what they want without oversight.
But if Congress were to get involved with oversight, it's not a real war. It's just a war where we name people who we don't like. We call them terrorists and then we kill them. And then if we see them floating around in the ocean, we then re-bomb them. It's a crazy
It sounds to me like you're calling into question other strikes that have been taking place, that those could be determined to be unlawful. So do you support broadening this investigation beyond that September 2nd strike? And who ultimately bears responsibility? Is it the Secretary of Defense or is it the Admiral?
I think what unifies people is the second strike, and I think that's what's going to bring people together. When you have people from Lindsey Graham to the Wall Street Journal saying that the second strike is illegal according to our the laws of our military contact, even in times of war, it's illegal. So the first question is, are we at war? And if we're at war, should Congress vote? That's the first issue. The second issue, though, is even if you accept the first strikes, most people are saying the second strikes aren't. I don't like to see political figures pointing their finger at military figures. Military
I got a question, Larry P. How did you know about Obama killing people in Yemen if nobody was making a stink about it? This is what I want to know. How do you know that Obama did killing in Yemen if there wasn't no stink about it? Now, shut your ass up, because it was a stink about Obama killing people in Yemen. And Obama is the president, not the goddamn Secretary of Defense. Did you find out anything about the Secretary of Defense getting hauled over the coals? Because I'm pretty sure if it would have been illegal, they would have dragged him over the coals. Moral is different from illegal. Shut your ass up.
people take orders, and there's a question about, when they don't take orders, whether things are legal or not legal. But in this sense, it looks to me like they're trying to pin the blame on somebody else and not them. There's a very distinct statement that was said on Sunday.
That's a telling statement. He said they're trying to pin the fault on everybody else except them. Pin it on everybody else except them. Shut your ass up. I'm older than you. Shut your ass up.
Secretary Hegseth said he had no knowledge of this and it did not happen. It was fake news. It didn't happen. And then the next day from the podium with the White House, they're saying it did happen. So either he was lying to us on Sunday.
He was lying to y'all now. He was telling the truth on Sunday until he knew it was going to get him in trouble.
Or he's incompetent and didn't know it had happened. Do we think there's any chance that on Sunday, the Secretary of the Defense did not know there had been a second strike? So as a country, are we just going to let people lie to us to our face? We're going to let them kill people.
If you're Republican, you don't care whether they lie to your face. Y'all let them do it anyway. We ain't going to let this person do it.
Who they call enemies anytime in the world. We're going to let them, like when someone is stranded and holding on to the scraps of a boat, put a second bomb on them. I think it's outrageous and should be universally condemned.
Senator, do you think the Democrats...
Let's not even. So we're going to listen to Mark Warner. We're going to listen to, and there was plenty of people who are not out here defending these things because this is indefensible. It's indefensible. Whatever it is indefensible because you cannot say this stuff. People are saying it's indefensible. I don't understand why we have this. You all need to decide whether this is indefensible or not.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news.
Okay.
So to start off the conversation, what did you see in the video and what did you make of it?
Well, Brittany, to say the video was disturbing is an understatement. I think and the notion that these were somehow still combatants. The boat blew up. There'd been 11 people on the boat. 2 were survivors. There was a piece of the boat still floating in the water. And the administration is trying to make the case that they were still actively in combat, in a sense, against America. And, again, I'm not reaching a conclusion because I want the video to be seen. Although it's going to be hard for the administration to make this case. I want the legal opinion that justified this action to be laid out and seen by the public. And there are a whole host of questions, that still need to be answered. I mean, let's go back and look at just the underlying rationale. The administration decided in late July, didn't really tell anybody at that point, that they were going to suddenly designate these drug cartels as active terrorists the same way we designated ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And that, in a sense, possession of drugs, they almost tried to make the legal argument was somehow the equivalent of having weapons or bombs. That policy decision, they started planning in August. They never provided a legal document. In fact, the legal document was not finished until 3 days after this September 2nd strike, and the Congress never saw the document until late November. I think America needs to see it. And, so there was a whole underlying justification here. And then there was the debate about, even if that was justified to strike this boat and then to do the second strike, really raises questions about international rules of legal warfare. I mean, America has aspired or ascribed for a long time that, you can't blow up survivors if they're in the water from a ship. Now they are arguing slightly differently. And I want to, not so much, I've called for Pete Hegseth to resign. I've not been a fan of his since the Signalgate days, but I am, I want to get all of the facts, because if an accusation is made that this is a war crime, that's something you can't pull back. That is something that, based upon international law, the damage that would do to American military's reputation with Americans and the rest of the world is really, really serious. So I want to see the order. I want to see the communications between the admiral who, at least based was ordering the second strike. I want to know what Hegseth's initial order was. So we've got more information to come, but this is something that cannot be swept aside. This is something that the Congress and the public needs to see the video. They need to see the legal opinion. And frankly, the admiral and Hegseth and others need to come back and testify before a full committee. I was fortunate, actually. I was the last member to see, and I had more time with the admiral and as well as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And, there may have been some serious judgment miscalls here, but I feel like, what we're seeing here is our military being potentially put in legal harm's way because of a not thought through policy. And this isn't the first time, because the same thing that happened this week in terms of with Hegseth, with the Signalgate Inspector General coming back and saying Hegseth's irresponsible actions in, I believe, February, literally put our troops in harm's way. So this has been a really challenging week on the national security front.
I know that the rest of the American people have not seen this video, but you said that the two survivors were not combatants. Were they able at all to flip that boat over? I know Senator Tom Cotton said it looked like they were flipping the boat over. Were they trying to flip that boat over at all? And B, was there any way for them to contact anyone? Did they have any radio access or anything like that?
Brittany, I don't have the full answers to those questions. I have an impression that obviously, and the only reason I'm hedging here is because I think the ramifications are so serious that if they didn't have communications, it's hard to make the case that they were still combatants. And if they're not combatants, and I'm not an expert on, international rules of war, but these are rules that American military adheres to. I mean, we're in very serious circumstance. So
we are in very, very serious circumstance because we hired Pete Hegseth. Because we hired Pete Hegseth. We allowed this president to hire Pete Hegseth. This is why we're in trouble. We are in trouble, and it's everybody's fault that allowed it to happen. Allowed him to become as incompetent as he is. He doesn't appear to be incompetent, but he is. His personal life overwhelms everything. His personal life overwhelms everything. Because he cannot keep his personal life separate. Who knows if he drinks? Who knows if he does any of these things? We don't know. I don't know. I don't know Pete Hegseth that well. But I do know that he has personal issues and things like that. And we have allowed this person to be our Secretary of Defense. How? I don't know. but it is what it is, and we are embarrassed because of it. So this is a problem that we need to solve. We either need to get rid of him, or we need to get rid of the president that has done this to us. Okay, because we're heading in a perilous path, and America is rejecting everything that comes down the pike. Pete Hegseth is not necessarily incompetent, but Pete Hegseth has too many issues to be the commander-in-chief, the Department of War, the Secretary of Defense. He just has too many issues. And we need to turn that clock over, because we have 3 more years we have to deal with this particular person. And I don't think so. When will African Americans get reparations? Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows if we do? Who cares? Who cares? We waiting on that Doge check, though. I'm waiting on that Doge check. Then I'm waiting on that damn that tariff check. I'm waiting on the Doge check first, then the tariff check. I want all of that first. You all hit the like, share, and subscribe button, please, and thank you. We have content like this every day. I probably will be back later. Who knows? There might be some other news. With this president, you never know when there's stuff in the news, because he's always talking about something. He's always presenting the case for him to be impeached. He's always presenting people who need to be impeached, specifically Hegseth, who should definitely resign. But he's so arrogant. He's so arrogant. He actually thinks he's going to get away with what he's going to get away with. He actually thinks he's going to get away with what he's getting away with, or he thinks he's going to get away with. And it's up to us to make sure that he doesn't. So please, everybody, please hit the like, share, and subscribe. We have content like this every day. And we have this kind of content. We have world news, stories, breaking stories. We have all those kind of things. But please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate the like, the share, the subscribe. Please come back. Please come back. Because I definitely will be back later on. Of course. Maybe later on. I don't know. It's Sunday. I might be back later on. I don't know. Because it is a Sunday and maybe I want to take a break. Who knows? I don't know. But I like late night stuff. Last night I had a stream. You guys need to go check it out with Nick Fuentes. If you didn't check out the stream from Nick Fuentes, I did it around 1 o'clock in the morning. And 500 people showed up. 1 o'clock in the morning and 500 people showed up. I ain't never did that, but it was wild. So please hit the like, share, and subscribe, because Nick Fuentes was telling people what Donald Trump actually means and does to everybody. It was a hot stream. It was a wild stream. Last night, 1 o'clock in the morning. Go back and look at it. Please show up again. We would love this content every day. I appreciate the like, share, and the subscribe. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. I appreciate the like, the share, and the subscribe. And we will be back. Thank you. Hold on. How do I even change any of this? Okay, here we go.